Parkway with an injury accident blocking 2 left lanes. Now, southbound is solid from Weber Road back down to Route 126 with a crash there in the center lane. Eden's in from Lake Hook Road 33 outbound in 16. Kennedy out to the split 1822 in the express 39 to O'Hare. Inbound from O'Hare 5225 of that in from the junction. Ike outbound 54 minutes from the circle to 390. Inbound crawls from York to Austin. 390 back in hour 9. Now the Stevenson outbound, that's jammed from the Ryan out to Cass. From DeSable Drive on out to 355 an hour in 6. The Ryan outbound stop and go purging to the split downtown to 95th and 33. That's traffic. I'm Mary DeBadges.
Did you know a fire department responds to a fire every 24 seconds? This Fire Prevention Month, First Alert is reminding you to be prepared by installing smoke and carbon monoxide alarms on every level and in each bedroom of your home. Don't forget to add First Alert fire extinguishers on every level and in common spaces like the kitchen, and know how to use them. Protect your whole home with safety you can trust by visiting firstalert.com and your local Ace Hardware.
When the forgotten poor are in need of healing, they wait for a ship unlike any other. Mercy Ships, a floating hospital staffed by volunteers, heroes of mercy who donate their time to save lives.
Every human has the right to have a place at the table of the human race.
If you could just see the smiles that you get when lives have been changed, then it would make it all worth it.
To learn more about Heroes of Mercy, go to mercyships.org.
With Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez.
From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing ass says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Hello, thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you're happy, healthy, and safe wherever you are on this gloriously beautiful autumn day. It's a beautiful Tuesday, and I'm absolutely dazzled by this kind of weather. And if you're stuck inside somewhere, I hope you get a chance to just step outside and take it all in. These are the kinds of days that we need to take a mental picture so that when we're in the grips of a frozen polar vortex in the middle of January or February, we can go, okay, but there are great days ahead of us. That's actually how I spent the whole 4 years under Trump. There are great days ahead of us if I just remember how great things can be. We're going to have a great show today, a great conversation with you, as always, because we talk about what's on your mind. The number is 773-763-WCPT. That's 773-763-9278. Coming up after the 5:30 break, we are going to talk to Terry Cosgrove, who is the director of Personal PAC. We're going to find out what's going on in Springfield. As you know, they are down there for the veto session, and there's a few things that they're planning on voting on, including congressional maps, as well as picking up possibly legislation regarding PNA, Parental Notification Act, which was legislated when the General Assembly had a Republican majority and a Republican governor, and they put in this wording that really kind of hampers girls and young women who might be in danger, who might fear for their lives, who for emotional and physical reasons need to seek an abortion. And it has shackled many girls who might otherwise make a different decision for their own health, for their future. So we're going to talk to Terry Cosgrove about that. And I know that there are legislators who are very invested in women's reproductive health. This is one of those that does snag them a little bit, where they go, I'm not sure about that one. So we'll have a conversation about why it is important for girls who are in that situation to have autonomy. And we'll have that and give us a call about that or anything else that is on your mind. 773-763-9278. We are also streaming live on our Facebook page, and you can go there, as well as YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube page and our Facebook page, and that way you'll get alerts for when we go live. So you go, I can just have the show right there. Abortion and everything else on our first call. I like the synopsis here for Steve from the Gold Coast. Hey, Steve, how's it going today?
Fine, thank you. And yes, I actually called in hoping that we were going to discuss what's going on in the city. I've got a couple of friends who are with the Chicago PD. They seem to indicate that the work stoppage is already in place, and that there are a great many officers who are not going to be showing up for work or already have failed to show up for work. So I'm wondering, whether or not that's the case, or whether it's just sort of rumors that I'm hearing. But beyond that, I do think that the mayor sort of painted herself into a corner on this.
Oh, I agree.
If this were the case, that the people at Streets and Sand said, you know what, we're not going to go ahead and submit to this. Okay, if my street doesn't get cleaned for the next month, I can live with that. But in today's day and age, given the explosion of crime that we've seen in the city, we cannot afford to lose 20, 30, 40% of our police officers. I mean, this is not the time to play games with this. And in a perfect world, I understand why we want everyone to be vaccinated. We want all persons who work for any entity in government to be vaccinated. But given the balance that we've had to strike, I just think that this was the wrong move on the part of the mayor, to paint herself into that corner.
I spoke to a friend of mine who is in the police department. I spoke to a couple of people, actually, and one person, so these are all like, someone told me, right? This is not reporting.
Exactly.
This is my friends in the, like you're saying, right? I some of my friends who are in the police department. Yes, but what I heard was that the sort of en masse declining to share information about vaccine status was in protest yesterday, that many of them are going to get vaccinated and will share their information. From what I'm hearing, it isn't an intent to do any sort of work stoppage, although there have been there have been about 18, from what I saw, 18 police officers who were stripped of their duties because they refused. But there were weren't there over 1,300 that were also refusing to share that information via their portal? This is what I understand.
And exactly, and I'm wondering what that means. So are we literally saying that you've got this hard deadline? If you don't share your information vis-a-vis the portal or other means, then you are not being paid when you go to work. What is the firm deadline? So that the city would like to know, because there are businesses out there that are worried about what could happen. We're not the only ones who know this information. There are people out there who we've all seen the videos. Whole groups of individuals run into stores on Michigan Avenue and the Gold Coast and other areas of the city and run out with everything. Well, what do you think happens if you discover that, oh, by the way, Chicago police are down a third of their officers? I wonder what we could get away with. I mean, there is a lot here at stake.
Well, and to your point, you mentioned streets and sanitation. If they have a work stoppage and we would have garbage in the streets and people would be upset, but it wouldn't be the same thing. Was that your point? I'm just trying to make sure I have that right. Yes.
Right, exactly, because it's not a life and death situation. Like I said, so let's assume that my street doesn't get cleaned, until next month. I can live with that. The garbage thing would be a little bit more difficult, but again, the point that I make is that there are departments that we can sort of afford to kind of say, I'm going to put that on hold for a bit, or because we're going to be down a few people. But police is not something, security and safety. I mean, that's just not something that we can play with as far as, not having enough personnel out there. We already are short of some 1,000 officers in the city of Chicago.
Well, I would ask this, Steve, though. You mentioned Streets and Sand, and we talked about whether or not if they didn't comply, but they were being held to the same standard, is my understanding.
No, you're absolutely right. And that's what I mean.
Why is Streets and Sand different? But why is Streets and Sand right?
Because I'm not going to lose my life if my street doesn't get cleaned or my garbage doesn't get picked up. My wife isn't going to get carjacked. My daughter is not going to get murdered. That's the distinction. In a perfect world, you're right. I mean, everybody should be held to the same standard. In the world in which we live, I think playing with the people who are in charge of our security and safety right now, I think it's just a lose-lose situation for the mayor. I mean,
well, but that's the thing, is it that then it goes to that same thing where somehow we're not allowed to enter these conversations, or I guess we obviously are not holding them hostage. This is a decision made by the mayor, and maybe it's not the way you or I would handle it. But at the same time, saying that because they have a job where we would be in danger gives them leverage in a way that, again, goes to every time we ask a question or criticize anything that the police department does. And
you are absolutely right, and you're right, because historical context is important here, because the police have always held that over our heads. Basically, you rely upon us to protect you from the bad guys. If you don't give us what we want, take care of yourselves.
That's what I'm uncomfortable with. And I think the Democrats, exactly. I think that we need to be better about having these conversations and not be afraid to have them. But we sometimes are, because then, we get sort of painted in this corner by the police department as being anti-police. We aren't even allowed to question. So it kind of goes into that. Hey, Steve, you know what?
Right. And if I could just make this last point, and this is something that even FDR talked about, 3/4 of a century ago, that there's an inherent problem when you're talking about public sector unions versus private sector unions, because there's just a problem when you're talking about government and dealing with those different kinds of unions.
Right. Yeah, it is a different beast. You know what? Can you stay on the line, because Roosevelt has a question for you, and I believe I'm turning the show over to callers, which I am perfectly comfortable with. Hold on a second. Hey, Roosevelt, Steve, Roosevelt, Steve. Go ahead.
Patty,
yes.
Thank you for taking my call. Steve, how are you doing today? Steve,
fine.
So you're saying kick the can down the road? So you're saying that we shouldn't mandate the mask? Then what happens to the policemen that have been vaccinated when they go in a car with another policeman that hasn't been vaccinated? That's my first question. But what I'm noticing here is the movie. I've seen this movie before. This reminds me, correct me if I'm wrong, either one of you. This reminds me when Trump went down that stairway saying that Mexicans, and that's how he launched his campaign. Here, it's the same thing as far as I'm concerned. And here we have an individual, John Carazera, to be precise. He's launching he's a candidate for mayor. And he's going to get free publicity, just like Trump did. As far as I'm concerned, this is a political plot by John Carazera. Now, normally, Steve, I agree with you 99% of the time. I love you. You're a great person. You're more intelligent than I am. You have more schooling. You've been there. But I've seen this movie before. Do you know the amount of money that guy's going to get once this happens, what you're saying, if it happens? It doesn't make any sense, Steve, because here's the point. Everybody's going to get infected because there's going to be a section of the cops. It's a divide and conquer mentality that he's using, and he's going to get free publicity. And the rest of the country's watching us, is watching what happens in Chicago. This is going to be, as far as I'm concerned.
Go ahead, Steve.
Right, that goes exactly to my point, is that at this time and place, now, again, keeping in mind where we are in Chicago. So right now, Chicago, if you poll Chicagoans, the fear of crime actually exceeds the fear of COVID. And right now we're going into the holidays, and this is when we rely on millions of people to come to this city. A month from now, we're having the Festival of Lights show. Usually you get 1 million people down here. They fill the restaurants, the hotels. They go shopping. If that public perceives that Chicago is dangerous, and that's how we're perceived right now nationally, that it's dangerous to come here, that you can get shot and killed, you can get carjacked, all of these things, we lose out on those people. We lose out on the tax base, those jobs, and so forth. So I'm not arguing that Canzera's position is a legitimate one. I'm saying that the mayor painted herself into a corner by offering this ultimatum. There has to be a compromise, and the one that allows these police officers to stay on the job.
But correct me if I'm wrong, Steve. Didn't the mayor offer testing? If you guys don't want vaccines, then testing everything.
That's exactly the point. That's exactly the point I wanted to raise. I think she's giving some more. She's giving some more rope, and she's saying, okay, fine. In addition to being vaccinated and demonstrating that you've been vaccinated, the alternative is you can be tested a few times a week, twice a week. Okay, I think that's an olive branch. Now the question is, will police officers and their union and Canzera buy into this, or because his numbers with regard to how many people are not going to show up to do their job are inflated. I firmly believe that.
I agree with that. Sorry, I just want to put that 2 cents.
So I don't think there's a perfect answer here. I don't want people out of the street. Yeah.
But Steve, the fact that we are the poster boy for crime, it's already set in stone. 4 years we heard it from Trump. It's not going to change, Steve, just because the mayor caves in or doesn't cave in. That's set in stone, Steve. We already got the label of the worst city as far as crime.
Well, prior to 2020, we had reduced crime significantly. We reduced the murder rate by 35% in 3 years prior to 2020. So we're able to change that perception. I mean, Chicago is considered by many people, a number of very prominent publications that cater to tourists. Chicago is considered the best city in the world to come and visit.
I'm going to have to step in here for a second. First of all, I have to go to a break, but this has been a great show. It's the Steve and Roosevelt show, which has been fantastic. I enjoyed this. But also, I would say that Trump also hyped that all up, Roosevelt, over the last... That has been compounded by him. Remember saying he wanted to send the National Guard. And, remember he said he could fix the whole thing. He put a target on Chicago's back in 2016. And we... I'm sorry, go ahead, Roosevelt.
That's precisely my point, Patty. That it's already set in stone. People are not going to believe. It's great that Steve throws those numbers out there, but people ain't going to believe numbers. It's already the myth is out there already. Per capita, I agree with you, Steve, with the numbers, but that's not going to. The point I'm trying to make here is you're going to infect. And the police department. What happens, Steve, when the police department gets infected? In other words, they all get COVID, or the majority. Let's go to extremes. The majority, they're still not going to be out there in the streets. They're going to be in the hospital. So either way, you're not going to have more policemen on the street because eventually.
I would say this. I would say this: that we have not seen an explosion of COVID cases amongst officers, existing officers, or people that they're in contact with.
Okay,
so it's not as if that this is a problem. What, next week there's going to be one. I don't think that it's that.
One more thing, Patty. Please.
Go ahead, Roosevelt.
One more thing.
Yep.
One more thing. What about variants, Steve? What if a new variant? There's a new variant in Chicago. What then? Notice that the variants that have been...
These are all the variables. These are all the variables we have to consider.
Yes.
Exactly. I mean, like I said, there's no perfect solution to this.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the new variant, the mayor is going to be at fault. See, she's in a situation where she can't win one way or the other. Because if she allows these cops to do that, then they're holding us hostages. To be specific, John Kenneth-Sarah. This is all political ploy, as far as I'm concerned, and I've seen this movie before. Instead of Mexicans, it's people that have been vaccinated against people that haven't been vaccinated. Divide and conquer. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, Patty.
Roosevelt, Steve, it was great having this conversation with both of you, and I appreciate it. Let's do it again sometime.
Thank you.
I'll know I can go get coffee next time while we're doing this. Both of you, thank you so much. We're going to take a break here and come back and take calls from Harold and Debbie, and the texts are coming in as well. Let me read one text. Tell Steve the cops don't make the law or requirements for their jobs. The mayor didn't ask anything unreasonable. Cops are expected to enforce the law, so they should be able to follow it as well. Well, and this isn't a law, it's a job requirement. Nothing is required of them that we shouldn't expect for our safety involving COVID. Nothing. So I want to reiterate again that when I know that we have men and women in law enforcement who hear these conversations about them, that they become, that it sounds as though it's an attack. And I hope that you can soften your hearts, as we also should, when it comes to what the issue is here with the negotiations with the city of Chicago. If you want to join the conversation and be reasonable, I think everyone's been reasonable today. And please join us, 773-763-9278. More after this on WCPT 820. We're driving it home. I'm your host, Patti Vasquez.
The Hal Sparks radio program.
Governors of pro-Trump states, they must show their fealty towards Trump by mitigating any support for the health and safety of their own citizens against COVID so that they don't upset him or the minority of his supporters amongst the Republicans in their state, which are often the majority of the voters in their state.
Hal Sparks, Saturdays from 11 to 1 on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Still looking for that one special voice that makes you fall in love with podcasts? The One is out there and free on Spotify. With over 2 million shows and today's most talked about podcasts, Spotify is the best place to find that one special show that makes you laugh, keeps you interested, and keeps you listening for more. Whatever you're into, get way more into it with a podcast. Find the one you've been listening for right now, free on Spotify.
Can I get a weight reading on the cat in exam 3?
Zuri needs a new vet tech after their current one literally moved to a farm.
Snap-to-tail checkup is waiting.
But finding an ideal replacement takes some training.
This is like herding cats.
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Schedule virtual interviews and talk to candidates right from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
If you don't have final expense insurance, this message is for you. Life Care provides valuable whole life insurance to help cover final expenses, medical bills, burial costs, and unpaid debt. A final expense insurance policy is fast, easy, affordable life insurance available to anyone between the ages of 50 and 80. No medical exams, no lengthy questionnaires, and no waiting period. Call Life Care at 800-956-0683. 800-956-0683.
A 1, 2, 3, 4. Delta spawn. Damn, we thought this crap was gone. Could it be we're heading back to quarantine? Now the governors of red states have gone and outlawed mask mandates. Seems to me the GOP wants us to die, including kids. I'm sure glad I got my full vaccine.
Get vaccinated, you dummies.
Oh, that's Steve Goody. Any insults that come from any of our guests or callers are not the opinions of the host of this or the station. Just want to make that disclaimer right there. I want to thank all of our callers who are joining the conversation, and Harold, who's been on hold for quite a bit through the conversation as well. Hi, Harold. What do you want to say?
Hey, Patty. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you.
All right. So first, I just wanted to say, love your show. Two, I'm definitely not anti-police, but I think all of these people calling with their hair on fire about, what's going to happen if they work stop or if they get laid off the job. I think it's a little bit overdone. So we got a lot of crime happening in the city with the existing staff. So, what has they been doing to prevent the current amount of crime? And so why should we be scared if they're not there? Then if they're not there anymore, crime's going to shoot up even more. I don't know. There's something missing there for me.
That's an interesting point. Right. Essentially,
a lot of crime is happening already, and they're there.
Right. The threat is kind of, you think it's bad now, wait till we're not there kind of a thing. And it seems pretty bad.
What are you doing now? We got cameras, right, all over the city. A lot of these cameras were installed to help prevent carjacking. Have they prevented carjacking? And that's, I'm not blaming the individual, police officers. I'm not saying anything about that. But I think there's something missing from this conversation for me.
Well, the part that's missing is that, for me, the part that is missing in almost every conversation about how we are policed is why are the causes of what's going on in communities that we have choked off from opportunities for decades, but because that's not a quick solution for anybody, right?
Right. And I think the other part of this conversation that I think is getting missed is, if we let this happen, right? So if we let this John Kepazar or whatever his name is, who's a whack job anyways. So again, why are we, getting our hair on fire for this Trumper, whack job guy who's in charge of the police union, right? Or one of the police unions. But so if we let that happen, I think the bigger threat than the police not or walking off their jobs or getting let go is going to be the further lack of confidence in the police force. So now you're talking about people who are, it's been mentioned before the break, right? People who are supposed to uphold the law and uphold the rules don't want to uphold the laws and the rules. So, if you already have lack of confidence in our police force, what do you think is going to happen when they sit there and, fold their arms and say, we're not going to do it.
And not follow the rules that have been instituted for their employment.
Follow the rules.
Right.
Right.
See?
And, one last thing that just popped into my mind is, all right, so police are laid off, further increase in crime. What are they going to do? Are they going to find jobs and move out of the city? All right, good luck selling your home when your property values go down because you just let the fire burn. You just let the city burn, right? I mean, I don't know. Like a lot of this stuff, again, it seems like hair on fire. It's really overblown. So I listen to this stuff day in and day out, for the past week or so.
Well, I tell you, I was going to talk about Dennis Prager giving himself COVID, but I didn't even get to that because we got on Yes, right. So, no, I agree with you. I was thinking about that when I was coming in. I'm like, I wonder if we're going to talk about this today and right out of the gate. And I think because we had a heated conversation. So I thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day, Harold.
Thank you, Patty.
Take care.
All right, you too.
Thank you. And Debbie's been on hold as well. Hi, Debbie in Old Town. How are you doing today?
Hey, Patty. I'm doing great, and I love your show. Thank you so much for this wonderful conversations that you have on a daily basis. I love it.
Thank you.
Would you? So we're going to have people that are doing a bad job at their job call the shots on all the rest of the police that are trying to do the right thing and do a good job.
Oh, you mean
How is that?
You mean the police? Because there are a lot of police officers who do a great job. I mean, the majority of them do. Right? Yeah.
But a few bad cops are the ones that are calling the shots on all this. Now, they're supposed to serve and protect. Well, if you want to protect, how can you let your people go into an area where you might be carrying COVID? And how is that protecting?
I think you're right. And I think that we should focus on the fact that the rank and file, I think a lot of them were withholding their information on the portal to show their allegiance and feel like they've done that part of it. And I think that it's going to be, we'll see that more police officers will follow the rules and requirements. But I think that a lot of them feel that, this is a job where we can't even imagine the ramifications of going against the hierarchy, the way it is right now. We've seen that, look, we see it dramatized in movies, but it's a real thing where people have to, police officers have to worry about their own safety if they go against each other.
Well, that really is ridiculous. And I think that, there's not a lot that I agree with Lightfoot on. I mean, there's a lot I disagree with her on. Let's put it that way. So I might agree with her on. This, I think, is very important for her to hold the line on this because you can't just do a carve-out for police. I don't think it's right.
That's fair. I think that's fair.
I mean, if you're making, if you're taking a stance, take it and take it. Be there with it. Hire more people. Do whatever you need to do to back it up.
Well, and they've also
don't give in to these people.
And they've also said that they resent the fact that the teachers don't have to pay for their tests. But I think CTU fought for that, so I don't know why the FOP didn't fight for that, or if they were rejected on that. But I need to find out more before I go yapping.
I think the teachers union is paying for the tests, aren't they?
We'll have to find out where that's coming from. Thank you so much, Debbie.
Yeah.
Great to hear your voice, and I appreciate the conversation. Take care.
Thanks for everything you do. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Before, I know I have to go to traffic, but I'm going to take Anne's call real quick. I promise. I promise, Lady B, it'll be fast. I think. I don't know. Maybe Anne's got a lot to say. Hi, Anne. What do you want to say?
Hi. First, I need to digress just for a second. Did you get to meet William Shatner?
I did not get to meet William Shatner. We met one of the voice actors, and my son's going to text me very angrily. We met one of the voice actors from the Muppets. He does like Rizzo and a bunch of voices, and that was great. And the voice of the guy who does the Mario animation. So that was cool.
That's cool.
Yes.
So here's my question. This is my question on this. So a lot of these officers probably have children or have had children in public schools where it is required that the kids have to have vaccination to go to school, and school is a kid's job. So what is the difference?
I don't know.
If they're making their kids get the vaccination, right. What the heck? I mean,
well, Yeah, I agree. This was, yesterday I said someone was arguing with me and they were like, you want to force them. I don't want to force anybody, but I do want everyone to get vaccinated, everyone that can, because that's how we controlled polio and smallpox and measles and mumps. That's why we've been able to, have safety from those diseases. And anyway, I've got to run, Anne, but you make a good point. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Have a great rest of your day. Oh, man. Sean wants to agree, but I have to run. If Sean can hold on till after our conversation with Terry, I would love to take Sean's call. I have to take a break here. We'll find out traffic and some messages from the station. More in a moment. I'm driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT Willow Springs is powered by ComEd. Lower your energy bills and reduce your carbon footprint with the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago traffic update.
Northbound on I-55, solid, Route 126 to Veterans Parkway, with an injury crash blocking 2 left lanes. Southbound is bumper to bumper from Route 53 down to Route 126, mixed in just after Weber Road, with a crash blocking the right lane. Southbound 355, stop and go 22nd Street down to 63rd, with the crash now off onto the left shoulder. Eden's in from Lake Hook Road, 47 minutes braking at Tower. Kennedy outbound, 18 to the split, 21 in the Express, 39 to O'Hare. Inbound from O'Hare, hour 3, 20 of that on in from the Junction. Eisenhower either way busy. Between 390 and the Circle, hour and 8. Stevenson outbound stacked up on out to Cass. From DeSable Drive on out to 355, hour 1. The Ryan outbound to 95th and 38. That's traffic. I'm Mary DeBadges.
Panera believes in saying yes to the good things. Yes to mac and cheese. Yes to topping it with cheesy Parmesan crisps. And yes to putting it all on a sandwich. The new grilled mac and cheese sandwich. Get $1 delivery when you order on the app. Panera. Live your yes. Restrictions apply.
You know your closet well, but what does it sound like? Yes, your closet. Does it whisper your taste? Does it scream your taste? The new Stitch Fix Freestyle, your personalized store, gets to know your unique style and fit. Its selection transforms to show you only the looks and trends you'll love. With a store that evolves alongside your taste, your closet will scream, "So you," without actually screaming. Introducing Stitch Fix Freestyle for women and men, your personalized store. We're so you.
When the forgotten poor are in need of healing, they wait for a ship unlike any other. Mercy Ships, a floating hospital staffed by volunteers, heroes of mercy who donate their time to save lives.
Every human has the right to have a place at the table of the human race.
If you could just see the smiles that you get when lives have been changed, then it would make it all worth it.
To learn more about Heroes of Mercy, go to mercyships.org.
You're listening to WCPT 820, because facts matter.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
There's so much that goes on behind closed doors.
On WCPT 820.
There is so much that goes on behind closed doors, but you can also, if you go to Springfield, you can be a part of what's going on in the conversations. And joining me on the phone from Springfield is Terry Cosgrove, the president and CEO of Personal Pack. And I want to talk about P&A, but first I want to know, Terry, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. I wish the rest of the world were doing a little better, but I'm fine. It's a beautiful day in Springfield. I can't believe I'm even saying that, because there aren't that many of them.
I know, but
I'm fine.
It's a great town to walk in on a day like this. You know,
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. And I'm going to do that when we hang up. I'm taking a walk, yeah.
What's your joint? I like Obed and Isaac's. I also like Alex. There's a couple places I like, but what's your joint?
Oh, Smoothie King. I'm so boring.
That's okay.
I know.
Well, you have to keep your strength up for this week because there's a lot going on. Talk to us about where we are. Go ahead. What were you saying?
No, I said go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Where are we with P&A in Springfield?
Well, where we're at with P&A is that there is a lot of conversation going on about it and how to approach it. And in the next few days, there should be some legislation that is going to be discussed. And I don't have the details exactly what the bill is and how it's going to be framed, but there is definitely talk of getting it done, which is really good. I mean, I think what has really heightened the concern is all the horrible things that are going on in Texas, because there is a very short line between the cruelty of the Texas law, this 6-week abortion ban before most women even know they're pregnant, with no exceptions for rape and incest, and you can draw a very short line between that and P&A, which was enacted in 1995, which was the only time that Republicans had entire control of the Illinois General Assembly and state government. And the same people who are supporting the Texas law are supporting this. And I think the General Assembly is realizing that the only purpose of PNA is to cause harm, and it doesn't have anything to do with communication, but it's to cause harm and stop young women from getting the abortion care they need and deserve. And what's really horrible, Patty, is young women are having to drive over 1,000 miles to come to Illinois to get an abortion. And when they come here, to find out that they have to beg a judge after they've done all that work to get here, or call their abuser back home and tell him that they're in Illinois getting an abortion, has really pushed people over the edge, as it should, because it's a horrible law. It causes so much harm, so much damage, and it needs to go. People are starting to realize that.
Yeah, and that's the part. I know that some people are uncomfortable with it. They talk about how teenagers need to be able to talk to their parents, and they hate the idea of the parents not being involved. But first, for folks who aren't familiar with PNA, can you give them some of the specifics of this act?
Sure. It requires that for anyone under the age of 18 that her parent be informed that she is seeking abortion care. And I want to say at the outset, the reason why the law is such a farce is that in the 13 states that don't have any kind of parental involvement, we want Illinois to be the 14th, 85% of minors involve an adult family member or parent in their decision. In the 37 states that have parental involvement laws, 85% of teenagers involve an adult family member. So this has nothing to do with increasing communication or increasing any kind of interaction between minors and their parents. It's totally the only outcome of it is putting the health and lives of young women in danger who feel they can't go to their parents because of violence, because of threat of homelessness, threat of being thrown out of the house. I mean, a whole bunch of other, and not to mention if they are victims of sexual assault. The details are. So that's the details right there. I mean, that's what the law is. It's been on the books since 1995, enforced since 2013. And the other thing I want to point out to people, and I've been telling legislators this was a law in search of a problem. In other words, prior to 1995, there was no one complaining there wasn't a single complaint filed with the Medical Disciplinary Board. There wasn't a single parent that was writing a letter to the editor, going on radio shows saying, my daughter got an abortion without telling me. That never happened. There was nothing, zero zip evidence that this law was even needed, but the right-wingers saw it as a chance to try to stop as many women as possible, just like they're doing in Texas, because don't forget, when they're done with PNA here, they're going to go on to the Texas law. They're going to want to enforce that here. They're going to want to try to pass it here. So this is just on a continuum of the harm that they want to do. And Texas is a glaring example of that.
One of the things that just struck me is, when we talk about people who say, I don't think that parents should be removed from these decisions, or, as you mentioned, before PNA, 85, or in the states where this is enacted, 85% of young women and girls do talk to their parents or involve an adult. I think what a lot of people do, and it's not just about abortion, they sort of insinuate themselves into the situation and think, well, what would I want? What would I do? Without thinking what's necessary in this situation. And they also impose their religion on it, because I do not believe that life begins at conception, because that would be 2 weeks before you even have sex, really. I mean, not conception, but even, that measurement, it's all this sort of nebulous, intangible conversation, because everyone wants to put their own values on it, and instead of thinking about what a young woman or girl needs in that moment.
Right, absolutely. You're correct about that. And the other thing is that if parents that have a relationship with their minor children, they're going to have that prior to the pregnancy taking place, and the minor is already going to feel that it's okay to involve them in that decision and talk to them. I mean, the other thing I want to point out too is that this law is really not about anything other than the right-wing agenda. I mean, there's no, and you just mentioned a point, parents being involved. Well, in Illinois, a minor can get pregnant. She can get a C-section. She can put a pregnancy up for adoption. She can do any kind of medical procedure having to do with her pregnancy, anything. And she can give birth without ever telling her parents. She can get a C-section without ever telling her parents. She can consent to any kind of medical care that she wants to while she's pregnant, except for one thing, and that's abortion.
It's got to be so. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no. So it clearly points out the hypocrisy of all this, because if the right wingers think that parents should be so involved, well, then they should be involved at the beginning. They should have been involved right at the beginning, and then they should also ask to be involved with a C-section. Except the problem is with all of that is that that every single medical organization in the country, every single child advocacy in the country has come out and said that minors having access to make these decisions on their own is in their best interest, and it's harmful to impose mandatory, dangerous parental involvement. And that's why we don't have, consent, because pregnancy is time-sensitive health care.
Exactly, it is, and that's the willful ignorance. Well, it's not even the willful ignorance; it's the deliberate intolerance of people's freedoms.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. So here's, I don't know how much time we have, but I want to get to this, but here's what every single listener on your program needs to do today to help the young women of Texas, to help the young women in Illinois. Everyone needs to contact their state representative and ask them to repeal P&A. And no one should be embarrassed if they don't know who their state representative is. If they do, that's great, but a lot of people don't, because people move and they're not sure, or they know who their congressperson is or their Chicago City Council member. So if you're not sure who your state representative is, you can go to the Personal PAC website, click on to get involved, and under there, contact your elected officials, and then you can find out who your state representative is and call that person and say you want P&A repeal. If you don't want to go to our website, you can go to the State Board of Elections, you can go to Planned Parenthood, you can go to the ACLU. It doesn't make any difference. Find out, come hell or high water, tomorrow morning or tonight, who your state rep is. Call the Springfield number and leave a message, and all you have to say is, please repeal P&A. They'll know what you're talking about.
Okay, please repeal P&A. And that's go to personalpac.org.
Our website, it's our website, but other organizations, like I said, the ACLU, Planned Parenthood, also have links to do this exact same thing. So just go to wherever you're comfortable, or you can go to the State Board of Elections, and they have find out who your legislator is, and the phone number will come up there. So whatever's easiest, whatever someone's more comfortable with, that's what they should do. And please do it tonight or tomorrow. If you call legislator's office in Springfield, you'll probably get a voicemail at this hour, although they're in session right now. But still, just leave a voicemail. Hi, leave your name, your address, and I'm calling asking that you repeal P&A.
Excellent.
And it doesn't matter who your state representative, who your state rep is. You think they're pro-choice, they already know. Make sure they know you want this done.
That's a great idea. Yeah, don't assume. Never assume, because I know.
Right.
Yes, never assume.
And I had very pro-choice sponsors of the bill, actually, of the repeal bill, say, I hear from more people from the other side. They're not changing their vote. They're going to vote right on the bill. But it's really important that they be able to tell their colleagues that they're also hearing from pro-choice people, too.
Well, it's also our support for them, right, to help them get through these battles. Yep.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
The other thing is, I know you have a luncheon. Is there still availability for the luncheon tomorrow?
Yes, absolutely. There is. Oh, God, it's going to be an amazing event. People can go to personalpac.org and still purchase a ticket tonight. And we'll get you on the list, and you'll get. It's virtual. It's with Norman Lear. Raphael Warnock, the U.S. Senator from Georgia, is the keynote speaker, and it's really going to be a great program for an hour. And I put you on the list, didn't I, Pam?
Yes, you did. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
Great.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
I want to make sure.
Yes.
I could have sworn I did it, but at this time when everything's going on at once, I mean, the stars are colliding. Having to be in Springfield, do this event, and then having to deal with the Capitol on PNA, I'm feeling, okay, it's not going to get much worse than this, at least.
Don't say that. I love to tell folks a little bit about why you're honoring Norman Lear, which I absolutely love, and I have some ideas, but I love that you guys are honoring him. Tell us a little bit about that.
I know. Well, first of all, I've always admired him through the years, but the main reason we're honoring him is that he had a show called Maude that probably a lot of your listeners have never heard of. But Maude was a feminist from a suburb of New York, and it was on the air for like 7 or 8 years. But in November of 1972, 2 months before the Roe v. Wade decision, Norman Lear made history by airing a 2-part episode where Maude gets pregnant. She's in her late 40s, early 50s in the show, and she gets pregnant, and she makes the decision to have an abortion. And it was the first time that abortion was discussed on primetime TV. In Norman Lear, and this is after All in the Family and all the other shows they did. I actually thought it was a spin-off of All in the Family. She was a cousin of Edith, Archie's wife, and it really, in fact, the little history that I discovered when the show ran originally, it wasn't that controversial. But when they did the rerun several years later, the right wingers were not that organized when Roe v. Wade was decided. In fact, it wasn't really. It was a 7-2 decision by the U.S. Supreme Court in 1973, but they got so well organized after Roe v. Wade, and still are today, I might add. Texas and the U.S. Supreme Court are perfect examples of that. In reruns, 2 stations in the entire country refused to run the reruns of the Maude abortion episodes, Peoria and Champaign, Illinois.
Really?
The 2 cities. Yeah. I know. Can you believe it? So there's a bit of Illinois history here. So we're honoring Norman Lear.
Yeah.
And he just had a very nice birthday. He's going to be 100. And when you talk to him on the phone, you think you're talking to someone in their 50s. He's got energy, and he's still working. He's still doing streaming stuff, and he's going to be 100.
Wow.
Let me see. This April, I think. Yeah, coming up.
That's incredible.
7 months.
Life goals.
Life
goals.
I know.
Terry, I've got a caller. Do you mind taking someone has a comment from Plainfield?
Yes.
Here we go.
Yes.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi. I just want to thank you for having me on your show, Patty.
Of course.
Terry, I just wanted to tell you, I have been a clinic escort at a clinic in Downers Grove, Illinois for over 10 years. And I can tell you that this whole PNA thing needs to go. I see the women coming in. I see the minors coming in. Almost every single minor comes in with a mother, a father, an aunt, or a grandma. So I just wanted to tell you, too, I just found out about Personal Pack a few days ago from my friend Jack Sweat. And
a handmaid, yes, thank you.
Yes, and I know Annie, yes, and
yes.
I am planning on coming down to Springfield on Monday and hope to be there on Tuesday at the Capitol with Jax and with Annie, and I'm hoping that I'll get to meet you. And I just made my first donation to Personal. I just made my first donation to Personal Pack yesterday.
Hey!
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. We did not plant her to do this, really, but
I know.
I want to thank you for being an escort. I did it years ago. In fact, that was one of the first things I did when I got involved with the pro-choice movement. More years than I want to admit on the radio. But thank you. It's such important work to help. And if people don't know what an escort is, I think it's really important that when the anti-choicers are out at a lot of places where abortions are performed, and they yell at women that are going in. So the escorts, like this woman on the phone, really are doing such important work because you wear the vests, right? You wear the green vest.
I wear a pink vest. We have
a pink vest.
Because of a lot of the anti-choice people are now wearing the yellow neon green vest, and they also say choice on them.
Right, I know.
So our vests were donated by Benita Ursulano,
Right. I know the Best Project. I donate to the Best Project.
Okay, yeah, and they say clinic escort, and we meet the cars in the parking lot with a smiling face, and I immediately identify myself. I am a safe space. I'm here to walk you in. Don't pay any attention to the people that are yelling at you. Just get your insurance card. Make sure you lock your car. You just run chatter just to drown out what's going on out there on the sidewalk.
Right.
Yep.
Well, listen, I am so glad you told the listeners what it's like, because I think this is really important for people to know. Especially, people that go into their doctor's office and don't imagine going in for health care and having people screaming at you and calling you a murderer. This is what millions of women in this country go through every single year, because we know that close to a third of American women will have an abortion by the time they're 45 years old. This is a common medical procedure, and to be harassed, threatened, and screamed at is what our opposition does to women who are seeking this health care. And I really appreciate you explaining this to
Preach
people.
it. Yep. Thank you. Yep.
Yes.
Thank you, Cindy.
I hope I get to meet you when I come down there, Terry. I'd really love to meet you.
Well, Annie and Jax know who I am. I'll be at the Capitol, so just have them point me out, and I will come and look under your bonnet, maybe. Or no, please do. I would love to meet you, and I really appreciate everything you do as an escort. The fact that you took the time to call into the show and tell the listeners about your work, it's so important that people understand there is a war going on against women in this country. And the only other thing I want to say is I've been reading the articles how the men who were part of the January 6th insurrection have been demonstrating at abortion clinics for years. They did their training there on how to harass and intimidate people. I mean,
that makes sense.
I actually want to write an article, go, America, why weren't you listening? Because this kind of insurgent behavior that they did at the Capitol, they've been doing for close to 50 years to women seeking medical care, harassing, screaming at them, threatening them. And it culminated in the Capitol was their, what they did on January 6th.
It's crazy.
Same activity. Yeah.
Well, Cindy, thank you so much for the work that you do and for calling in. And maybe I'll join both of you in the Capitol along with everybody else next week. Maybe we'll get to meet you too.
Be there next week?
I will try to. I can.
Okay,
great. Let's do it. Terry, Cindy, thank you both so much. Be well. And Terry, take that lovely walk before the sun goes down, okay? I've kept you long enough, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
all right. Bye, Cindy. And go to personalpack.org for information about that luncheon and how you can participate in the work that they do. Let me take a break here and see if I still have time to get to Jerry, who's been on hold. More in a moment on WCPT 820.
The Hal Sparks radio program.
Governors of pro-Trump states, they must show their fealty towards Trump by mitigating any support for the health and safety of their own citizens against COVID so that they don't upset him or the minority of his supporters amongst the Republicans in their state, which are often the majority of the voters in their state.
Hal Sparks, Saturdays from 11 to 1 on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Can I get a weight reading on the cat in exam 3?
Zuri needs a new vet tech after their current one literally moved to a farm.
Snap-to-tail checkup is waiting.
But finding an ideal replacement takes some training.
This is like herding cats.
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Schedule virtual interviews and talk to candidates right from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-590-7516. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Providers help thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-590-7516. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-590-7516. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-590-7516. 800-590-7516.
Before we wrap things up here and to get Jerry's call as quickly as I can, I want to let you know that right now is the time to call for your chance to win a pair of tickets for Stephanie Miller's Sexy Liberal Tour. Caller number 3 right now. The Sexy Liberal Tour is featuring John Fugelsang, Hal Sparks, and comedy duo Frangela. And it's been a sold-out sensation for over a decade. And the only live show they'll have in 2021 will be in Madison, Wisconsin at the historic Barrymore Theater. Tickets and information are available at sexyliberal.com. But now is your chance to win a pair of tickets to the show on Saturday, October 23rd. You've got to call right now, caller number 3, and good luck on that Stephanie Miller's Sexy Liberal Survivors Tour, Saturday, October 3rd at the Barrymore Theater. Go to sexyliberal.com for your tickets. Everyone in attendance must show proof of vaccination and must wear a mask. If you can't get to Madison, go to Steph's website and purchase a ticket for the live video PPV simulcast and join in the fun. Contests running on WCPT 820 are open to listeners 18 or older and residents of the greater Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana area. 1 entry per person, 1 winner per household. Void where prohibited by law. Listeners may only win or qualify to win once every 30 days. Complete rules are available on our website at WCPT820.com by clicking on the contest tab. Now, Jerry, you don't have to talk that fast, but we're going to wrap up in a second with you. You've been on hold, and I appreciate that. What was on your mind?
Oh, okay, quickly. Just want to say I'm old school. I've always been against abortions. But the time came where I understood what's going on. We don't have a right to tell a woman what she can do with her body. Just like she don't have a right to tell us what we can do with our body. It is ludicrous. But in the Supreme Court, you have a guy that is on your show, Cliff Kelly, that was talking about that for years, telling people, get out there and vote, because if you don't, they're going to stack the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
He did that for years, and people was not listening. They were not listening to it. So we got to get out there and get this stuff back. Don't be lazy. Get out, vote, make sure we get everything that should be coming to us. But no, I'm 100% with women on the abortion situation.
Jerry, you wrapped my show up better than I could have. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you again later, okay? Have a great night.
Okay.
Excellent. Right. Well, that was perfect, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. The Rick Unger Show is up next. Have a lovely evening. Thank you, Lady B, and everyone here at WCPT. Bye, everyone.
AP News, I'm Jackie Quinn. Congressional Democrats spent the day negotiating with President Biden